Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Last of Us review. I'm the Scarecrow, Trestnell, and I'm joined by...
I am a coffee enjoyer, Kirklin.
I am the outstanding in his field, Dylan Moss.
I'm the Kansas Taylor Field.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are back for the 4th episode of Last of Us. We're kind of like, we're not halfway there, but kind of halfway there because it's 9 episodes, so there's no 4.5 episode. But next week we'll be over the halfway mark, so it's a little weird thing. But as I'm trying to transition that, there won't be an episode next week because we're getting another one this week. That's very exciting. So people, if you did not hear, they did announce that on the Friday, episode 5 will be dropping, same time as usual. I am very happy because I had said to these guys I was very stressing on what I was literally going to have Last of Us and the Super Bowl on TV at the same time, but I'm pretty happy, and I think it's a smart move because Super Bowl is the most watched thing every year. So that'll be on the Friday. We'll be reviewing that, and then there'll be we got Last of Us. We'll be doing season 4 part 1 on the Saturday, and then Sunday we're going to be reviewing a bunch of the Super Bowl trailers. We're getting Flash trailer. We're getting Guardians. The rumors Marvels, Indiana Jones, Little Mermaid. It's just going to be a plethora of stuff. So look out for that for the next week. Why were you shaking your head, Taylor?
Telling me that they're moving it, like they're going to compete with Hogwarts Legacy. It's a bold move, HBO.
I thought your reaction was that you were busy on Friday night and
Yeah,
you're
me
salty
too.
about this.
Yeah.
No, I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy, but no, I'm there. He's not watching.
I don't think they're worried. I think lots of gamers are watching the show, but I think the prime numbers are just people that are like, I haven't heard of this show, The Last of Us. But
We're reviewing Hogwarts Legacy the week after, so you got lots of time, Taylor.
There we go.
Lots of time. Very exciting. Lots of things popping off. Taylor, where can they find all the things when they pop off? Where can they catch them? Put them in their eardrums, their eye sockets, maybe their mouth holes. I don't know whatever they want to do. As long as they're supporting us, we're happy.
Just put us in your mouths. That's what we want. That's what we want you to do.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse is our Twitter, and GeekVerse is our Facebook.
Everything you need to know down below. Links for audio, video, Discord, the separate feeds, the podcast network, the Patreon, which we just put a massive dump of good stuff on there for the Patreon feed. We got the X-Men Retrospective Season 2, the first half. We closed out the trilogy of John Wick, so John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum's on there, and we jumped into the first Evil Dead. So some of those things you're going to be getting like almost a year early. They're all ad-free, so go over there and do that. We really would appreciate it. So we're getting an Evil Dead now. Soon will be Indiana Jones. I had a fun time today. I was planning our 2024 schedule and everything like that. So I was looking at 2025 content. I was had my fingers all over the place. So it was good stuff. But go over there right now. Lots of good stuff in the current present day. And you get other episodes ad-free, exclusive, early. I think in about 2 weeks is the next After 9, so you get to call in and talk. And big shout out to our Patreon producers, Aaron Braden, April Darkness, Joshua Wright. In March, you're going to be picking our next retro, which will be an Oscar movie retro, so that'll be fun. And then very soon, if you're on any tier, the Golden Geeks, I think next week voting will go live, and you can do that. So... Mr. Muss, obviously we had a huge high. You're one of the people that absolutely loved last week's episode. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about we're getting back to on the road with Joel and Ellie, kind of back to normalcy, if you can be normal in this world? But what do you think of episode 4?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the shortest episode by a good 7 minutes. So definitely a bit of a change of pace, especially from last week, which was like a short movie, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still enjoyed it very much. It's not quite as high as that, but I don't know. Like that, they went so out of their way with this kind of one-off episode that it's hard to match that. But we got like, I feel like a ton of development in this episode, and it's the same old stuff for me. It's like the dialogue and the acting is fantastic, and the tension and the action scenes are very well done, and it looks great, and they've gone through so much care and attention to detail in this world and making it truly feel like this place that has just completely lost itself. So once again, like everything about this episode, I love. This show is amazing. I'm so happy.
Mr. Pat.
So happy. I am also so happy. I don't know why. I think it's just because coming from last week's episode, I found it like a 10 out of 10, even though it was like an offshoot, deviation from our main protagonists, which is Joel and Ellie. Just coming into this one, I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna be, but I feel like it's gonna be lesser of a quality of that, even though we had like different characters in it. And man, I was fooled because this one was stellar. I thought, like Dylan mentioned, we had some just great development with our characters. I just love this duo so much between Pedro and Oh my gosh.
Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey, thank you, Travis. Threw me a bone there. I think just like the chemistry that they have on screen together is so fantastic. This episode, I feel like it was less of them getting on like each other's nerves and actually like just being friends and like bonding and just kind of, I don't know, learning a little bit more about each other and teaching each other some things. And I just thought it was fantastic. A lot of like little one-liner humors, whether it was from Ellie or whatnot, and like it had me laughing. Like there's naturally, I think the humor in this episode it was very like similar to the humor that I remember like encountering in the game, whether it was Ellie just like, I don't know, finding something funny and just relaying it to the character as you're just like traversing to another location. I guess minor spoiler here, like we get some baddies that our characters are fighting with, and I like again, maybe Travis can comment on this. I felt like the voice lines that like the bad guys were dropping, whether it was like, I'm gonna get you, motherfucker, it like sounded exactly what it was taken from the video game. So that was really cool. It just felt very authentic, as well as like the action. It seemed very similar to, I mean, I've only played half of the first game, but from that experience, I felt like it was very accurate to that. So just huge applause to this show still, episode 4, and I just think it's fantastic. I don't really see any obvious directions that the show could go that like I would really lose interest on. I feel like, you know, 4 episodes in, I kind of know what I'm getting and I'm just loving it. So yeah, HBO is just killing it. It's so fun to just have a weekly show, tune in 6 o'clock on Sunday, and that show is really, really good. So yeah.
What if they bumped into Toro Talican for one episode?
Jesus.
That would be an
wild.
interesting deviation for sure.
He
Same
loses
name
Ellie,
too.
and yeah, he's stuck. It looks like you're stuck with me, partner.
He's the exact same name too. Like same
Yep.
costume. They don't even like try and make it different.
I'm from Tatooine. You
It
heard
would be
that
a fun
place?
review, no matter what.
Would it? It would be, and also
I
a
think
sad
so,
one. You
but
know.
yes.
Pedro like requests to bring the same actor in.
Yeah, I
Loved
really
working
liked him
with
in
him.
episode 5. Yeah. So speaking of, throw it to the biggest Toro Talican fan, Taylorfield. What do you feel about episode 4?
It was great. I love the story development, but I feel like again we're getting into some action here. We're getting into just with this immersive. We're going to like just new sights and visual representations. Again, stuff that's happening that I have no idea if it's still. I'm assuming sourced from the game, but stuff that I'm not sure like exactly what some things are. There's one thing I thought, oh, this is totally. I think it's even from like the game trailer or something like that, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I think it was great. It was really, really good. And yeah, I'm glad that there wasn't anything where I was like super like I don't know what to spoil, like anything like super disgusting because I don't know
Madison
the
during the Gardens holiday special right there.
yeah. Well, she's like
shit off.
Taylor, I'm worried about watching this because like we're eating dinner right now, and I'm like, yeah, I hear ya. Like, it's like I feel like this show like it's gone past that threshold now. Like you don't know, at least I don't know what to expect. Like we get some pretty crazy things going on here, and I feel like this episode it introduced a lot of new storylines and just kind of is. I feel like it's a good stepping stone, setting the tone for where we're gonna go next, and. I really, really enjoyed it. There was one moment in particular that I was like, holy shit, like I need to, like, I can't wait to talk about it because I have questions about it. But it got me super jazzed because I started thinking like, man, this is like a pull from another video game that all of a sudden I'm really, really jiving with. And yeah, so I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I like this episode. I would say for me it's the weakest one, but it's like I've said, like all the episodes are 9 or 10s for me. Like I know we will review it at the end, but if it keeps this quality, it's already in a close spectrum one though. So it's just like it's in that same barometer of. I think the strongest stuff for me is the Joel and Ellie stuff. I like that we're finally getting them bonding, talking, getting a relationship. And I think it's more the stuff they add on, which we'll talk about in spoilers. That like I like it, but I need more episodes to know how invested or interested I'm going to be in certain obstacles that they've introduced here. Because we're at a point in the game where we would just be moving forward, and you're just bumping into random things that stop you. Where this, they're kind of giving those random things a story reason now, right? And that's where it's unknown to me. And what they presented here wasn't bad, but it wasn't also like, oh, I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And I think that's maybe purposely because we're still learning stuff and learning. Like there's a character they keep talking about that we have no idea what they're talking about. So I think this will be something that I think the guy that directed this week's episode, he also directed next week's episode. So I feel like that's kind of like a 2-parter in a way. So I'm excited to talk about those threats next week. I'm going to talk about them, of course, this week. But yeah, I thought another good like just I wouldn't say home run episode, but like they won the game. Like it's one of these like I don't know. That just luckily, and I don't even think this week I have any nitpicks or anything. I think they have they've just been killing it. No pun intended. It's hard to tell. It's hard every week to come in here and try and think of new words to talk about how good they're doing. But I just have to make a master cut of just what I've said in the past, and they're just it's a great
Create
adaptation.
a new word, Travis. Create a new word on the spot right now.
Misopoly. They're just misopoly doing this to the nth degree. So
All right.
Sounds negative.
misopoly. No,
sloppy.
misopoly. What? I don't know.
It sounds
He-
like very
he-
chunky, like a very chunky
does.
soup.
But like wet. Yeah.
No,
it's a
Misopoly
lot of
means-
Knock off
substance.
Monopoly. You get from
No,
dollar store.
misopoly.
It is kind of like Monopoly.
Misopoly is like it's thick, so it's thick with storytelling. You know, it's
Okay.
just like it's heavy and stuff. But
Yeah. Gotcha.
yeah.
We'll smell it.
Let's take our first ad break, and then we'll get into this misopoly episode. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So yeah, I wanted to start because Taylor used to like if it's close to the games. I want to start with the thread and get your guys' opinion on it because at this point in the game, most of it is. It's interesting how you do in a game where in a game adaptation and stuff like this, where in this point you are, you're in the car, but then you do a lot of you're just on foot walking around, lots of puzzle solving of just like how do you open this door, stuff like that, and you'll bump into enemies, bad guys, but they're just like random thugs that want to like take stuff from you or kill you stuff, right? Where this is they're kind of giving them an like some sort of story of okay, they're a resistance group. There's something else obviously going on with this Henry character, which you don't fully know, and Joel and Ellie are kind of plopped down in the middle of it. So I think for TV, it's a smart thing to do. It's just interesting to see in the games where it's like, no, that's the point of kind of this portion was you're just going to get to know Joel and Ellie, and that's what I thought. But I commend them for giving these characters some story. I just hope that I'm like I hope I really enjoy it. Where right now I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued, but I wasn't like loving the scenes that was going on with those characters. I was just like, oh, I can't wait to get more of this. So how are you guys feeling about these threats introduced now?
Well, one thing that I thought that kind of stood out to me is I remember a big talking point of The Last of Us Part 2 was that they implemented this thing where the thugs, the enemies, the human enemies you're fighting in that game, when you like shoot one of them, they'll say like, "Oh no, they shot Danny" or something like that. Like they'll insert like little character moments where it doesn't feel like it's some random generated NPC. Like it feels like a character because they have a name and they care about each other and that kind of thing. And I that was the vibe I was getting when they were doing this. Is I felt like they were like name dropping each other and like really showing that they cared about each other. And I'm like, I wonder if they hadn't had that innovation for Last of Us Part 2, which is in theory kind of an easy thing, but I guess it adds a lot. But I felt like they were trying to do that here, where making these three random guys a part of the first skirmish kind of, they're pretty much just random dudes, but by saying their names and making them care about each other, you're immediately like maybe a bit more invested. They don't seem like just kind of random thugs. But then, yeah, there is this whole other element of who is this squad. They're not Fireflies. They're not, I forget all the names that they have for things.
Vedra.
Yeah, exactly. There's some other clan altogether. So I don't really know anything about that clan in terms of my very foggy memory of Last of Us lore. So I'm curious to see more of them. But the thing that like also immediately stood out to me is one thing I don't know like any of the cast of this thing. Like when we got Murray Bartlett last week for I always mix up Bill and I think he's Frank in that. I was
He's
like,
Frank, yeah.
I didn't know he was in this show, but when I saw him, like, oh, I can't wait to see him. And that's the same thing for I forget her character's name, but when she shows up,
I think it's Catherine.
Kathleen.
Melanie
Kathleen Kennedy.
Linsky is the actress's name, and I've only seen her a couple things, but one is the movie I really loved. I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, and she's fantastic in that. So immediately when I saw her, I'm like, I cannot wait to see like what she's got going on here because she is fantastic. But I've only seen her in one or two things, so I am pretty invested in what's going on here, but I definitely don't have like many theories as to how it factors into the greater story so far.
And they're not in the game, so that's the fun thing for people
Cool.
like myself and other people where it's like I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what this MacGuffin of Henry is. Why is he doing what is he doing? Why does he have this room with? And I guess it kind of explains now that there's like there's two. I imagine Henry's the older one, and the kid is the one who left all those drawings and stuff in the attic and everything, right? So
Those characters are in the game, right?
Yeah, they're in the game. They're in the first one.
no, I'm
You
talking about the
fairly early on.
Resistance though. I don't know what
okay.
I don't know what they want with Henry and everything like that. I don't know what the deals unless I'm not remembering, but those are not. And even Neil Druckmann, I watched a little special after. They're in the game. They're just nameless people that you never get to like. Because obviously in the game you're not having a cutscene with not Joel and Ellie, right? So with the and see, I don't remember. I don't really remember these two. Is one of them Henry then?
That was
That'd
maybe
be the
the
dad, I think.
yeah,
The
that might
dad,
be
he was
it.
he was pretty young looking. The older one, he was still looking like.
I can't remember if in the game if that is like a father-son relationship or
Okay,
if it's
yeah,
like an older brother or something.
Yeah, I think
but
it's
those
an
two
older brother.
characters, I know they're in the game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the same situation, like in this same city or anything like that.
Okay.
But I can't remember exactly how the details go down either. So it is still the cliffhanger is still a true cliffhanger for me here.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
There's stuff like I knew when we were in the car. Like I remember so specifically, probably because it's a funny scene of like her getting the magazine. I'm like, oh, she's gonna pull out and she's dead, and then she did a little joke. But stuff like Henry, that's something that I'm needing to like. I should probably look a screenshot of the character, and then maybe I'll jog the memory. But that is something where I'm like, ooh, that doesn't sound too familiar to me there. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, with the resistance people, whatever they're called, not Fedra, not Fireflies, just something else. I feel like I was kind of like what you were saying, Travis, where I wasn't like uninterested in it. It was just like I needed a little bit more spice, I think, to like get invested into their situation. Because like right now, I think the most interesting thing about everything that was shown with them was that like Stranger Things situation they got going on in that basement. That's just a big mystery. Because I don't know if that's a video game thing that was incredibly new to me, and it looked imposing and scary, and I'm sure them trying to like, oh, we'll seal it away and deal with it later, I'm sure that's gonna be a big mistake on their behalf there. But yeah, like I think the situation though of like just maybe showing scenes from their perspective, it's just gonna make them a little bit of like a richer character, and I mean character for like the overall faction of what they are, of like they have their own families that they have to look after, they have their own struggles, and I feel like that's a reoccurring theme amongst like the entire Last of Us situation, is just like doing what you can to survive, and like that was even showcased today's episode when Joel was talking or Ellie was questioning Joel on like basically the sketchy shit he had to do on like, how did you know that they like he wasn't actually sick, and it's like, well, I've kind of done the same thing there, and it's just like peering in on them, I guess, and Kathleen and that character, just try and make them a little bit more humane, I guess, even though they're going after our protagonists. We can't just see them as like the very clear, obvious, big bad threat guy. And so I am a little bit intrigued on just how I think that inevitable meetup is going to go amongst Joel and Ellie and these individuals, and how they kind of help each other out, or if that doesn't go that route, if they just completely hate each other and it gets really bad. But I need a little bit more, I think, to get really invested in them. But I am excited to see what's going on in that basement.
Well, yeah, that basement, that was the scene that I loved, because I'm thinking like, holy shit, the locust hordes are going to be coming through the basement here. We got the like Gears of War tone going on. I was loving that. It was fantastic. So I'm really, really intrigued as to what is going on with that. Like, is it the roots coming through? Like, I felt like that whole scene, like, I felt unhinged, because like just the way, like, again, I can't remember the lady's name, 2.5 Men actress, Rose. She's
Kathleen
just like,
Kennedy.
is that actually her name? I thought you were memeing earlier.
No,
like
it's
Her name is
Kennedy.
Kathleen in the show. It is.
I
Rose
threw in
from
Kennedy
2.5
just
Men.
for
Okay,
the spice,
okay.
just to mess with Taylor. Yeah,
Kathleen
sorry.
Kennedy
Not
the
actually
second.
Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, just her reaction. I think she was like, "Oh shit!" Because like when the ground shifted and looked like the things were just gonna pop through, I was like, "Oh, this just felt intense." Like, it just felt like 1 to 100. I love that. This is totally something you should tell your people. But no, let's just keep it and like worry about one thing at a time.
We're locking
This
it
is
up.
something you fucking that door's not stopping. This thing's
She's
going
more
through
worried
the
about
earth.
Henry.
This
She's more
thing's
worried
going
about
through
Henry.
Oh fuck, Henry.
Do you
This
think
thing's
it's
going
something
through
that
the
she's
earth.
encountered before, Taylor, or is it this a new?
I would
threat?
say so, because she seemed pretty familiar. Like, how much time do we have? They were speaking to it like we know what this is. Obviously, it's not much of a concern for her if they can kind of put it on hold just so they can deal with Henry and stuff like that. But like, I feel like you bring that building down on top of that hole. Like, seriously.
You bring it down. How's
bring
your
it down.
excursion going? Just like
Bring it down. Put a couple like if you have grenades, put some gasoline. They have gasoline because they got vehicles. Put some gasoline in there, and yeah, just bring at least the floor down on top of that just to bury it a little bit longer. But don't just put a rinky-dink little storage room door in between you and this fucking locust horde hole. Come on.
It's funny that you had Gears of War vibe from that. I had Plague Tale vibes immediately. I was like, man, a million rats are about to pop out of this hole. So I like that we both thought of like different video game things that could have been. A question about this storyline. So there's this doctor that they have locked up in one of the storage units, and there's obviously a connection there where it seems like he sold out Kathleen's brother or something like this. But he also has a line that's like, "I gave birth to you. I held you as a baby," or something like that. Based on her age and timeline, like that must have been pre shit
Yeah.
going down, right?
Yeah, he was her family doctor.
Yeah,
Like
he didn't give
before
birth.
everything.
No, he didn't give birth. No, he was the doctor who did
Thanks,
the
Dave.
delivery.
Came from my womb.
Well, that's what you said. You said he gave birth to you. I was like, I don't think he gave birth. Like,
He was the first one to hold her, and he was the
Yeah.
last one to see her. So poor for the doctor. Yeah, yeah. No, I looked up pictures of Henry. I remember him a little bit now, but man, like the character model in the game looks so much older than the actor they have because there's a side by side. This guy's like in his, and maybe the character's supposed to be his late 20s, but yeah, that stuff I'm like fudgy on. But now I'd see him like, okay, I kind of remember and stuff like that. But I did like that scene where there's people that that are hurt. She asks, well, could a doctor help them? And like, no. So that just unfortunately sealed his fate, because if they would have said yes, then maybe he should have kept that doctor alive a little bit longer. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And I like that because it showed that she was kind of thinking about it, but then the decision was made. So it shows she's ruthless, shows that, okay, when she comes to our characters, we know that we could lose our characters, right? And stuff like that. Like, she's a threat now. It's not like you could talk to her and stuff. So again, yeah, I don't know why they need, because yeah, when I brought up Henry, they even said like, oh, he's just hiding from like unknown like entities in the game. So it's like they don't even list them. So this is like giving them more of a thing. So that's why I'm interested to see like, how does exactly we tie this all together? How long does this go? Is it something that is multiple episodes? Is it just, like I said, because the director is the same one for this one, the last one? Is it just a two-parter and they kind of move on to the city? Because they've already changed where they're going to. So, yeah, it's I like her. My experience is like Taylor. I know her from what is it? 2.5 Men. Yeah. But yeah, in the game they're going to Pittsburgh, but now they're going to Kansas City. They said the reason they chose that is because they could just make Calgary look like Kansas City a bit more. So that's why they did it. So there you go for the change up. Yeah.
Is that weird ground thumping thing something that you recognize from the game, Travis?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I don't think it was in this sort of way where, oh, two other characters point out, but I think it's in a way where if I remember the first time you get to something like that is it's just you get it revealed to you right away. I don't think it's a thing where Joel and Ellie like, what's that? And then later, I think it's something that leads to a bigger.
They don't just lock a door and walk away.
No. I think
We'll
it's
deal with this
unfortunately.
later.
Yeah, yeah. We'll come back in New Game Plus.
We gotta bring
but-
this building down, Ellie. Go get some dynamite. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's yeah, it'll be a fun reveal and stuff. So
Because I don't recognize that, but I was like, just with the setup they have now, where there's some sort of underground network where they can connect to each other and stuff. It's like, okay, this seems like something they'd be able to do. Is I don't know what's going on here, but like birth them through the ground or something weird. But I'm excited to see what happens with that weird sinkhole earthquakey thing.
yeah. And then yeah, we got Joel and Ellie. They're leaving the compound and whatnot, or I guess just Frank and Bill's place and whatnot, whatever you want to call it. And then yeah, that was ripped directly from the game where she finds the magazine, which is a fun little moment there of Pedro selling it really well. And then it's just them kind of bonding. They sleep in the woods, which I'm happy. He stays up because you're like, why wouldn't it? That's the first thing Emily asked me. Like, can't the car lock? It's like that would be a better route and stuff like that. And I guess he should have stayed up again at the end of this episode. But yeah, I think like what Kirk was talking about the whole episode, I liked. It was pretty much just a morality tale of, okay, like it starts with that guy who's pretending he's hurt, and right away Joel's like, no, this isn't the case. Like, we're gonna run by or run him over and stuff like that. And I feel like that she asked, like, oh, have you done something like that? And like, have you done it to innocent people? And that's the biggest thing when she asks, like, did you kill innocent people? He just doesn't answer, and they just keep moving. But I think it's this great push and pull of you have to hurt people, you have to maybe kill people, but sometimes you might have to do these to people that are deemed innocent or didn't do anything, but you have to do it to get yourself by. And it's a great kind of how far do you go, and once you go that far, how do you deal with it? And her asking, hey, when you're older, does it get better? No,
Yeah,
not
I
really.
love that
So
line.
yeah, everything they had about this was great. I think it was good kind of foreshadowing. I think it was good explanation on Ellie's character, how she feels, and we got to see her use the gun and stuff like that. And yeah, I liked the entire set piece, but everything they talked about in this episode was a home run for me. It was, I think, well done, paced. They talk about a little bit, then be some action or something they have to do, talk about a little bit, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah, for sure. I just I mean, I already kind of mentioned it, but just those two, that was the peak of the episode for me, and luckily that was a lot of the episode. Whether it was just like the heavy consequence, I guess, of Ellie's actions and like the way that she felt it, and like the way the actress was just able to like show the emotion and like the heavy weight of like just shooting poor Brian.
Yeah.
Cause she's a character that like she seems very hardened, but like I feel like sometimes like she is a very tough character, but it's just so hard to like keep that shell up, and like, you know, these little moments to like break through, whether it's like a little tear here and there, or just maybe ask like a really genuine question to Joel, and not just disguised as a nice pun joke or something. But yeah, like I feel like that is something that, you know, as someone who's only played half of the first game, I was able to kind of pull those traits from Ellie, and like I see it so well in Bella Ramsey here. And I mean, I was already sold on Pedro in like the first 5 minutes of seeing him on Joel in the pilot episode. But man, like these two together on screen, it's so gold. Like you guys already listed some of just the tough questions that Ellie was asking him, whether it was about his past or just how they kind of came to be, what the situation with Tommy is, and it never feels like they're just dropping lines to like inform the viewer on like just exposition or something. Like like it just seems like very genuine and believable. And yeah, like I think the thing that really stood out for me here was those little moments with Ellie where like she like brushed tears off her face, and then just right away it's like, yeah, okay, no, we're gonna go here. And like she's really good at masking, I think, like the struggles that she's going through here. And it's something that I guess the character is just so fascinating, or sorry, it's just that's what makes the character so fascinating. I guess is something that I could pull from just the way that she's written in the video game as well as in the TV show here. And I can't wait to just see that evolution of her, because I've never played the second game, but I know she does some crazy growth from the first game to where she is in the second one. So
Yeah, one line of dialogue, just kind of a little moment that I really loved is during the travel sequence, they're driving at some point. She's the navigator looking at the map, and she just like mispronounces the name of a place, and he corrects her, and she's like, "Oh, really?" And then she says it correctly, and they move on. It's like it's a nothing moment, but to me, it was just that little nuance there made it feel so real. It's kind of like a Big Lebowski sort of thing, where like the dialogue is so good that it feels improvised, or it feels just like a completely real conversation where, you know, in real life people don't speak perfectly all the time, and especially for her who doesn't, you know, has never looked at this map before, never seen this word before. It's kind of a weird probably spelling for how it's pronounced kind of thing. So I really like that little detail. But yeah, I mean, this episode kind of being split into, I guess, two sections, where like in the city section with the battle going on there, and then just like the first half being the travel sequence. I always talk about this on the podcast. I just love travel sequences. So I was digging everything about this, whether it's the zoomed out shots and just seeing the different vistas when they go over the bridge and you just see all the chaos, and there's like a yacht or a cruise ship or something like spun over in there, or even just when they stop at the gas station and they're loading up there. I just love all that element of it, and I hope we see more of them out in the wild. Like I don't know how much more of this is supposed to be just them being in the city from here on out. I don't really know, but I hope we get back to just some wilderness and open road at some point. I know they don't have a truck anymore, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'd hope we get a few more of those shots, because I really like the look of that. But I'm also excited like to just go through more city sequences, and like we haven't seen a clicker in over 2 episodes at this point, right? So I'm excited to get back to that as well. And it doesn't even really seem, other than that weird growth thing in the ground, it seems like next episode could not involve that at all, based on the characters and where we're at in the story as well. And who knows how long the next episode is either. So hope we see some of the more of that pretty soon. But I mean, it kind of about that too. Just I think they're doing such a good job with the action here, where this wasn't like some huge, like massive budget action shoot off or something like that. But to me, they never cheap out on like some jump scare thing, or they don't even necessarily show you everything, but there's just the tension, the way they build tension. I guess just is a credit to the editors specifically on this thing, which is a pretty small scenario, but it still felt like a big moment. So just credit all around.
Well, I think too, just not having the crutch of the clickers, kind of like being such a reliant thing for like, oh, let's rope them in, let's put the clickers in this episode and this episode. We're getting this storyline without these things that people, you know, we do want to see, But that is just another testament to how well this show is doing, and just the actors alone just doing great performances. And like everything in this episode between Ellie and Joel was like, to reiterate what you guys said, fantastic. And him starting to slowly crack and show these connections to Ellie, just with Ellie pushing it more and more and more.
A good
but
kind
ultimately,
of crack. You made it sound
the
like
good
he
kind
was
of crack.
losing it.
No, yeah. The downside to this too is
me lobster.
with so many forms of storytelling that we were so used to these days, we know, okay, with this new turning of a leaf, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be some kind of breaking point here where an outside force comes in. And sure enough, that's what we got in this episode. So,
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention too, I really like that. Yeah, and I liked the pacing of the action scene, Dylan, somehow, because I really like the touch of, because even then, like, we've seen people get killed, but it's not an overabundance. So even when they kill that other guy, it's like off screen. You just hear the guy like shuffling around. I like the guy like tries to offer his knife, like he's in a situation where that he's like, oh, you can have my knife. If you just get killed, they're just gonna take your knife anyways. I know it's a desperation play, but I just love that he offered that up. It's like, oh, I'll give you my knife if you let me go, and everything like that.
what do you all do in that situation? Do you listen? Do you trade with him and his grandma?
No,
No.
Or his
'Cause
mom, I guess.
You don't know
whatever it
how
was.
many
No.
there is and stuff like that. Their first edition or their first idea was to kill you and take your stuff and everything like that, which I like. Again, back to the camp when Ellie's like, "Oh, why is there gonna be people here rob you?" And he's like, "No, just much worse." And he kept it at that, which implies like many things. So I like that. I like the shootout, and like Kirklin said, I think all the dialogue sounded very video gamey, very just like you just take a line and throw it from there. And yeah, I like the death off screen. I like that it was just the sound, Ellie going through that hole, which I wonder how much stuff like. I wonder if they were going to try and get back to their truck, because it felt like there's a lot of stuff in that truck, and they only
Yeah.
had. It looked like they only had
Truck's
very light
gone, though.
backpacks.
The team, on the boots on the ground, these people, they're like, oh yeah, we got
It's
the
just
truck, it's
stripped.
loaded. Yeah,
I
so
guess
I think they're
on
taking
blocks
it.
already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. It's just even like some of the guns Joel had. Like I know he already had like the rifle, but it's like I think he had a shotgun at one point. It's like I'd grab a couple of those and bring them with me if I can, because you don't know what's out there. You know how much ammo you have, but yeah. And then we got a really a gun scene. I spoiled it. A really good scene of him showing her how to hold the gun, and I like that scene where she just shot a guy and it's very kind of stressful and very serious, that him trying to pull the gun from her, tried to like make it in like a jokey kind of like having fun with her in this situation. She was laughing, and because it's like really like that's the only fun you can have in this world, but that's you can start to see the like father and daughter bond start to form right there, especially this whole episode. And I liked too at the end of it where he this time tried to ask Ellie, because she said, hey, it's not the first time I've hurt somebody, and he asked her what did happen the first time he tried to hurt somebody, and she didn't say anything, just like him. And that's the whole thing, that they're just like each other, right? But like that's the thing where I liked that touch of the past 3 episodes, now 4, he's been completely, no, I'm not going to talk about, and she's been open book, but now when it comes to this, completely closed book. And I think obviously you'll get that reveal and that story in this season and whatnot. But I liked, again, pacing of the conversation, everything done well there. So
I love the gun sequence when he was showing her how to use it, because I mean, just from last episode, as soon as she grabbed it, it's like, okay, there's going to be a situation when it's revealed that she has this gun. And the way I took it, I thought Joel was going to be pissed, because it's like, you know, like, do exactly what I say, and like obviously he doesn't trust her with a gun, and that's very much going against his word there. And but you know, it was like worst case scenario, and like there was this like, it was like this tension in the air when like it was, you know, obviously Ellie saved him, but like they didn't address the gun situation up until that point. And then I think when like leading up to the point when they did start talking about it, Ellie was just like, yeah, like, you happy I had that, eh? Like like almost just trying to be like, oh no, it's a good thing that I had this. And then obviously he ends up showing her how to use it and everything. And I think even just like the actual gun usage as well, like her, I mean, at the start of this episode, like she's kind of like practicing her holding of the gun in the mirror and everything. She feeling like a gangster, just she has her like terrible grip on it, but like she's feeling good that she has this in her hands. And then by the time she actually uses it and shoots the guy, I thought it was just such a powerful moment too, because it's not like he was just like choking on his own blood if she like shot him in the lung or something, but like the fact that she like hit him in the spine and he just like couldn't feel his legs, and he's just like crying for his mom and just like really scared in that moment. It just, I feel like from it wasn't even like said or like spoken about in the episode, but the way that I took it, it was like she had like maybe like a preconceived like idea of what would happen if you just shoot someone. It's like you shoot him and he dies and that's it. Like the enemy is dead, but like it's so much messier than that in reality. And again, like maybe she had already killed someone with a gun before. I don't know that, but this is just the way I took it. It was just I could like see that in her face and her emotion. It was just like, oh, like this is not as easy as maybe she thought. And I feel like that's just a very powerful moment, and yeah, I took it that way, and I appreciate that scene so much more than maybe the way that I thought that was gonna go when Joel just finds the guns. Oh, Ellie, what the hell's this? And he's just like pissed off at her or something. So I thought the execution on the entire gun of Ellie's was just fantastic.
Just imagine Joel like, yeah, shoot him again, just fucking execute him. Bastard
hold
trying
down-
to kill
Hold
me.
down F and do an execution.
Take this knife too. Give him a few stabs.
Yeah. Get those spikes off the road. Let's really fuck them up. She just goes back to the Fireflies completely traumatized. Like, I really wish Tess was around, you know? Jill's not the right person, but yeah. What else? Anything else?
Not really. I think it's kind of a simpler episode.
It is a
I mean, it's
simpler episode,
shorter
yeah.
too, but
Yeah.
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 I like the camping sequence. Just a lot of like golden moments, I think, sprinkled throughout this episode. Whether it was like her in the pun book, I laughed so hard when it was just like, I got a serious question for you.
Yeah.
And she like does the scarecrow line, which is your guys' names, and I love that he like knew it as well already. Like he knew the answer, and then again, like she's just like, oh, you fucker, and I love that just like kinship. I think that's developing amongst the two of them, and. Yeah, it was hilarious, and then the one at the end, like that was actually just
so
fantastic.
contagious, man. Cracking up.
And like Pedro's just reaction to it was just so golden. He's like, Jesus, like that's the dumbest thing ever, and he just like couldn't help it, and he just kept laughing, and like that could be so cheesy and corny, but like it was just so real and authentic. I think it's really a tribute to the actors there, but yeah, like that humor, man, it hit so well, and I think it maybe hit even harder because it was like a darker tone of an episode. So to have these like little shimmers of humor, it really pops. It like contrasts it really well.
Well, what I like about that too is you had the two situations where, like I said, he asked her about what happened. She didn't want to talk about it. She asked him, did he kill innocent people? He really didn't want to talk about it. So it's kind of like, oh, is it going to be awkward for a little bit? Like, are they both kind of a little weary of one another? But she gives, and maybe that's part of the reason too, she gives that joke and also make fun of his hearing. Like, you can't hear through your right side, which is, it makes sense because when he gets broken up by Henry and Sam, he was sleeping on the side where his right ear was up. So whether they're trying to make that like a real thing or not, that was the way when he woke up, he was on that side where he couldn't supposedly hear anything. But I think that was kind of good too, to show that, hey, they've been through some stuff this week and maybe learn some things about each other that's a little questionable. Like, they both have maybe some darker sides, but they're not like, they haven't turned on each other. It's not like they're silent, just got to get there. They're laughing together. They're still bonding. Because I think they both, even her as a little girl and him as a 56-year-old, understand, like, again, to survive, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. You don't want to have to, but it's the name of the game, right? So
The 44 flights of stairs, I thought that was fantastic too. It's like, we'll see how far I make it. He's like, really? He's like, I'm 56 years old. Go easy on me. My classroom at school is on the 3rd floor, and I'm like gassed by the time I like gun up the stairs. I at least use the stairs. We have an elevator, but I take it, get some steps in, and I'm just like, so I feel you, Pedro. I thought 33 steps like that, or sorry, 33 flights. That was impressive.
Throw a couple clickers
yet.
chasing you too.
Yeah.
All that,
I'm
and then you
carrying
still
books,
get
Travis,
found
too.
out on the exact floor that you're set up on. Very
The
unfortunate.
glass trap, everything like that.
Maybe if
Before
they made 34, it would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I really like it. Just made me think of Mr. Levinstein from American Pie when Ellie's like, "Oh, his pages all stuck together." I was like, "Holy shit, this is an American Pie line right here." And
I feel like
Pedro,
I've heard that
he
line a
sold
million
that.
times in my life.
Oh
at
yeah,
this point, but-
Pedro sold that. Like, how would you answer that? Like, his facial expression
Bad
was
copy.
incredible.
Condensation. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the last one I'll shout out is Around the Coffee. My nickname, I'm a coffee enjoyer. I get it. Not everybody loves the taste of coffee. It's definitely an acquired taste. Some people attribute it to just tasting like shit or bitter or whatever. But I will say it does not smell like shit, Ellie. Coffee is one of the best smelling things in the world. So I was a little bit offended by that
I
line,
agree.
but
I agree
I'll
with
let it
that.
pass. Maybe it's just because she's born in the pandemic. She doesn't. No point of reference of a good smelling coffee.
I'll be the low man. No, coffee's fucking disgusting, man.
The smell of it though.
Yep.
Oh,
Smell
my
is
God.
incredible.
No,
Yeah.
especially like pure black coffee, like what Kirklin's rocking over there.
it's the best.
No, that just it just smells harsh and bitter and tar like.
That's
no.
pure earth. The coffee bean.
That's not
smells
pure
good.
earth.
The
Pure
delicious
earth.
bean water.
Straight from Treebeard.
Yeah, and I like that conversation too. Like, so this is why like this is what's made Starbucks so big. Like, this is what they're selling, and like, oh my.
She said that this is what the Starbucks was using in the QZ. So you're telling me
Yeah.
the apocalypse hit and Starbucks is still a booming business? Fucking A.
They're still
Makes
writing your
sense.
name wrong on
if
the
anyone's
cups.
gonna survive, yeah, as you're dumping off a dead body, like you're going to pick up your coffee. Thanks.
It's like it like looks perfect too. It doesn't look like apocalypse written
Yeah.
or anything. People are like wearing their aprons.
we had to say one thing. It was Starbucks. Yeah.
I want to point out too. I think Arby's paid a fucking dish wadload of cash because we got the
Lot of
sign in this
appearances.
episode too. Yeah, so
Their
they're
Twitter was
popping up
having
left, right,
fun
and
with it
center.
last week. They tweeted out after the episode like, "Yes, we are a restaurant," and very smart. I have to
Yes,
ask
we
you
did
though.
pay a lot.
While they were driving through the city, they went through some places called the Cinema Club or where it was a movie theater. Taylor, did you happen to see what was playing in that movie theater?
I saw it, but I didn't really focus on to like the marquee. Did you see what it was?
Yeah, so one was Matchstick Man, and then the other one was Underworld. So that was
Oh,
yeah, I thought for sure you'd get that. So I had to mention.
They should have detoured and popped the theater on watch.
Joel's
Lots
like,
of
hold on.
Underworld.
So I was like, I'll drop you off, but we gotta watch Underworld.
There's
I
like
didn't get to see
100
it.
people in the theater all watching. Oh, join us! Come on, get some popcorn.
Oh,
let's
you're
do
from the
this.
Starbucks. Yeah, we are.
Just a thriving metropolis inside this
Yeah.
one place.
That's at our store. The store when we said someone has to get Return of the King. That's what Joel's looking for. He's just looking to see Underworld. He really wanted to see it. It fits like the movies he likes and stuff like that. He'd be all into that and everything. Maybe it's a little bit different once you have to execute a bunch of people and you fight zombies and clickers and stuff. But
Oh, that other thing and I swear, like I mentioned before in the non-spoilers, like the song was from the trailer, right? When Joel's like, "Oh, this is before my time." They popped that cassette into the radio because I swore that music was from one of the trailers for Last of Us back in the day.
you could be right. I only watched the first one and I stayed clear of all of them because I wasn't luckily on
Okay.
any newscasts that had them. I know I had, but I just wanted to feel look. But yeah, that was a fun line. Oh, this is your music, like a little before my time, but still a winner and everything like that. But it
Yeah.
might have been. You could be right. So I don't know. Well, that's it for episode 4, I believe. Yes, so we'll be back, and I guess 5 days to talk about
Nice.
episode 5. Gonna be a good one. I think this one, and I think too. Luckily, last week, like the entire world fell in love with that episode, so it was fine. But I feel like this was a very smart choice, and there was action last week's episode, but I think this was a very smart choice. That this probably had. I know we had that clicker chase in the episode 2. I feel like this had the most action out of all the episodes, so I feel like that was really smart for if anyone watched last week. It's like, oh, I want to see like a zombie action show. You didn't see any zombies, but you're seeing fights, you're seeing gunshots and stuff like that. But again, it's not an overabundance of action. And I think next week though is going to be a pretty action-heavy one. I feel
Yeah.
like
Clicker action or just like human action?
everything, lots of just action, lots of
nukes
action.
and
Just a
explosions.
misopoly of
Yeah,
different
a
actions.
misopoly of action. You know, you're gonna love it. Like, look at that, I'm sopping all over the place. You know, so we will be back in a couple days to review last episode 5, and I promise you, it'll not be boring.
Yeah, bye.
Just end.